I'm waiting with bated breath.
Yeah, we can smell it. There we go.
Can I just say who wore it best, me or Stephen Mulhern, aka Baby Hulk?
Well, you surely do not look like Baby Hulk. Icebreakers Season 2, Episode 3. It's Movie Week! Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Icebreakers Podcast Season 2. This is Episode 3. It is Movie Week. We have rolled out the red carpet. Let's say we rolled out the red ice for this week's episode. However, oh my God, I'm just going to put it out there. Another shock exit already.
I'm so disappointed. It was a shock to everybody, I'm sure, but most of all, it was a shock to the skater that went out tonight. And all I can say is I offer my deepest regrets because I felt it was very unfair.
Yeah, it really was. And I think we're going to unravel and unwrap all of this on this episode because there's a lot to talk about, as there always is with Movie Week. First and foremost, we have to mention the fact that we lost Josh Jones and Tippy Packard due to injury this week. They unfortunately had to withdraw from the competition. We really didn't hear much, though, of what happened, did we?
No, I actually read an article online today, so I was alerted this morning that something had happened. Obviously, you were still sleeping in La La Land because you are 8 hours behind me. That's right, we're cross-continental people. But I heard that he had an ankle injury and that happened in rehearsals just hours before they went into, I think, dress rehearsal. So really sad to hear about that because he was such a fun guy as well on the show. And I was looking forward to his journey. Obviously, he had a long way to go and he had a lot to catch up on. And I was really looking forward to him really embracing skating and wowing us with his skills, but sadly not to be this year.
Yeah, and I think too, as we said last week, I think he was probably one of the most improved. And once you get over that first hurdle of that first show, you understand what the show is about. You get to feel those nerves and allow that to settle within your body. And I think we would have seen really, really good things with him. It's unfortunate.
We wish Justin Chippy all the best.
Now, we must not forget that we have started, I should say, Frankie, you have started our bonus episode this season with our Dancing on Ice lookbook. It's on Wednesdays.
And the fabulous Alexandra Schauman as my co-host. So, sorry, Matt, we didn't want to ditch you, but this is all about the glam. So we're talking hair, we're talking makeup, we're talking all of those extraordinary looks, and we're giving you a little bit behind-the-scenes sneak peek in how to recreate some of them for yourself at home, too.
So do not miss that. You guys go live, you stream it live on Wednesdays, and then it goes up Wednesday night into Thursday morning, wherever you are in the world. That is the Icebreakers bonus episode, Frankie Siemens and Alexander Schauman's lookbook. It's absolutely brilliant if you have not watched it. So let's get into this week's episode, because there is, again, so much to unpack. We saw all the couples compete. Well, the couples that are so far remaining. They're dropping like... They're dropping like flies. But I want to address, and if the celebs and or pros watch this or listen to this, that opening sequence that we saw where they do the celeb reveals, hey, the first time we see them on the ice when they come live to the show, a lot of the couples just bowed towards the audience. And we just see their backs for that entire time. Always remember that you are on camera. And yes, there are a couple hundred people in that studio watching you. And of course, you want to, obviously give your grace to the people that are watching you live. But also remember us at home. Always try and find that camera at some point and give us a little wave or a little nod or a wink or a little bow towards us at home. Because otherwise, we kind of feel left out.
I felt very left out. I didn't feel the love tonight at all. So yeah, peeps, we need to see your gorgeous smiling faces.
And it is Movie Week at all. Find that camera. All right, well, first to skate, we had Dan and Vanessa James. James Bond. He was, what did they say? The Bond of Basildon.
Basildon Bond.
Yeah, the Basildon Bond. I have to say, I'm becoming a massive fan of his. He just has this swagger when he's on the ice. The smoothness. He had the footwork tonight that he incorporated, or he and Vanessa incorporated into this routine for basically their second week. I know it's the third episode, but their second week competing was brilliant. He was doing bracket turns.
You know, yes, he was doing bracket turns, but interestingly, I thought that he'd regressed a little bit since last week. I found him a lot smoother and more self-assured last week. And this week, when he came out of the tunnel by himself with that little solo skate, I could almost palpably feel those nerves. I don't know if it's because he was the first one out. I don't know if it was because, he'd smashed it out the park last week, and so he felt there was a lot of expectation. I do think he's a lovely skater. I feel like he has it in his body. But last week, I was so impressed, and it's probably he's been a bit of a victim of his own success as far as I'm concerned, because I was so impressed with him last week, and I just love the way that he just kind of took to the ice like he'd been there all his life. And this week I felt like he was really thinking it through, and I felt he was a bit more haltering and faltering.
Fair
Of
enough. And
course, I am the wicked witch of the west, so it's not going to go easy tonight, folks.
and fair enough, because I think too, you have to keep in mind that first routine that they get on episodes 1 or 2, they've had for 3 or 4 weeks, if not longer. And week 3, week 4 of the series, we really start to see who they are as ice skaters because they only have potentially 5 days to train these routines. Well, to learn them and train them. So you're right. We are going to start seeing a little bit more of the raw skating and the raw performances because of the lack of time. Well, it's normal, but the lack of time in comparison to that first week. So you're absolutely right. I do agree with you that I felt his confidence lacked a little bit, and it I could see him thinking about steps where last week we didn't see that. But again, I think what he's doing technically was really good. If I could be really 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 picky, if I could put your green face on right now, I would tell him to watch his feet because they get really wide.
That's what I wrote down right here. I'm like, his feet were getting away from him. He was a little bit like Bambi, and they were very wide. I agree with you. Look at us, like we're pro skaters or something.
Me and my I didn't even announce. I'm got my High School Musical jacket on.
I love a little theme. Look at us with movie week. Boom, boom.
I'd love to go back to high school, that's for sure.
I'm not sure they'd have you.
Right? All right. So the judges scored Ashley 7.5, Odie 7.5, Jane and Chris both gave him an 8, a total one of 31 points. Odie mentioned that he was cool, calm, and collective. He wants to, or she wants to see more performance, and I completely agree with that. This is it's a hard character. We'll get into that in just a sec. But Chris said again, more character. Ashley really enjoyed his solo elements, but to believe in himself. And I think why do you think, Frankie? The question for me was, especially this week, and I know it's movie week, there's a theme, but it's still an ice skating show. How come all of these critiques were pretty much based upon performance? And why are they talking so much about performance?
I don't know. Maybe because it's movie week and it's themed, as you said, but I also think it's very strange that they weren't really giving them much to work on for next week. I mean, they kept saying performance, 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 work on your face, work on your character, embody the character, great. But nobody was saying the technicalities of like, hey, get your feet underneath you or you're going to trip yourself up. Or hey, bring your body back in line with your hips because you're leaning too far forward, you're going to trip yourself up. Or hey, don't lean too much onto your partner because you're going to lean forward and trip yourself up. There's a theme here.
Boom. That is exactly what I wrote down, not for Dan, but for Fern and Michaela, even, which we'll get into. But that, yes, I completely agree with you. I really feel like they are, I don't know, maybe because it is movie week, but I felt like the judges were not, again, where are the critiques? Right?
Yeah.
How can we give them constructive criticism to move them forward? So yes, we agree.
That's why we're here, people. So if you guys are listening, Dan and Vanessa, who we love, you guys look spectacular on the ice. Of course,
Yes.
we need to see you believe in yourself, but work on those basics. Go back to basics again because you have only had 5 day turnaround and it can feel a little bit like you've been shot out of a cannon. But go back to those basics. And if you need to spend an extra hour on those every week, or 2 hours every week, or 4 hours every week, then put the work in because that will stand you in good stead. Once you get those basics in your body, then you'll feel like every week they give you a piece of music and a piece of choreography, you'll feel like you're more stable and secure and in a better place to then attack that from day one.
It's an easy fix if you work on it.
Oh, I wrote that down for so many of the skaters. Honestly, we are like so in tune tonight. It's wicked.
Maybe we get the Oscar tonight. All right, moving on. Fern and Brendan, Trolls.
Oh, I always say this, and people at home, you need to watch out for this. When you skate second in the show, watch out. It is an unlucky position, and of course, now they'll change it all up and it won't be anymore. But historically, position number two, I always knew when I pulled out position number two, when my face was on the wall, position number two, I was always like, oh no, I hate skating second. I don't know why, but it's a very forgettable position. The opening number in the show is always very strong and everybody is so excited and up for it. And then the second routine was still very strong in this case. But I think by the time you get to like routine 9 and 10, people have just forgotten what happened. But you always
Yeah.
remember the first one. I think number two is a dangerous place to be. We saw that tonight. I thought when Fern and Brendan came out, I thought she was a completely different skater. Obviously, last week she was very beautiful and lyrical and romantic, and obviously I was a bit concerned about her back and a little bit concerned about her being very nervous and holding on to Brendan. This week she came out like va va voom, attack, attack, attack. It was amazing.
She did, and I wrote that exact thing. We are on form tonight. I put down all I wrote down was rhythm, exclamation point, exclamation point. Like I didn't realize Fern had rhythm. Like she actually had some decent dance steps in there. Yes, they were
Yes.
stationary, and I think again too, she was another victim of the feet getting away from you. That music was pumping so fast, there was so much energy that she brought to that character that it got a little bit too much, and it's really finding that fine line between excitement, performance, and projecting that excitement and performance out, but also keeping the movement still within your body.
The way to do that is you have to, every time you practice the routine, you have to practice the performance alongside it. You can't just phone it in rehearsals. And it's hard work to perform at that level every single time you practice it. But if you do that, it gets into your body. And we talk about face skating. Alex and I, we make jokes about ourselves face skating all the time. But if you find those moments and those pauses in the choreography where you can face skate, where you can face the camera and really, really project, and you do that every single time you rehearse it, then that also becomes part of your muscle memory and part of that trained. What am I looking for? Give me a word.
Repertoire.
Thank you. Whew, good word. Anyway, so it becomes part of your trained repertoire. Thank you. I guess came up with that all by myself. Because at the moment, what I'm seeing is people are obviously doing these things in rehearsals and they're getting the steps right and they're getting the technique right. But when they come out on the night, then they're turning it on and starting to perform, and that's what can amazingly that's what can trip you up.
100%. The moments when she was skating, like you said, she was a different person. It was strong, and I felt like she was really collected. But then things started to it's like that excitement bubble started to rise and rise and rise, and then it would trip her up. And she did have a couple of wobbles. However, I felt with this performance, there wasn't a lot of content, there wasn't a lot of skating. I don't know. Maybe that was the reason. Maybe people at home saw that as well, and that's the reason why maybe she didn't get the votes. She had a total score of 28, so she had sevens across the board, and that did
That's
leave
a
her
high
by put
score for week three.
yeah, I want to talk about that in a little bit too. But that put her basically third from the bottom. So I think for all the pros, always look at the choreography as if you are a judge. Does it have movement? Does it? We don't want to see. Well, they don't want to see standing choreography. This is a skating show. Yes, a couple of seconds at the beginning, and we'll talk about this, like even with Steve as well. That you just always have to keep the skating elements in there because
I mean, I kind of disagree with you. I thought there was a lot of steps, and I actually thought the skating was quite impressive. Yes, she stumbled, but what was really impressive was how she recovered. Some people, when they stumble, that's it. Their head goes and they fall to pieces, and then they start relying on their partner. And she didn't. She went straight back into attack mode. She was fighting for survival tonight. I don't know if she felt that she might have been in trouble, and that's why she came out so hard. And she really, really went hard on the performance. She went hard on the skating. I thought she did an excellent job, and I was really, really sad to see her go. Am I allowed to say that?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
Well, I was really sad to see her go. I was really gutted.
so was I. I think, and I do have written down what a great performance, and I agree with you too. She was fighting for her life when it came to those moments, and it is hard to recover after you've had a wobble or a trip to be able to snap back into that stability.
Did you notice how deep in her knee she was pushing to get the power for those back crossovers? I felt like her back crossovers were so powerful. She was almost dragging Brendan with her, like he
Mm.
was keeping up with her as opposed to her waiting for him to push her. I
Yeah.
thought she did a really good job. I mean, honestly, I'm a little bit annoyed.
Okay. We'll agree to disagree on this one. All
I
right.
will hex you.
Oh, please don't. We've made it this far on the live stream as well as the record. So far, so good. Skating third to the sound of music, Michaela and Mark, and all I wrote down was, I'm sorry, what?
Exquisite.
For week three, this was a smash hit. For week three. And the reason I say that is because yes, she does need some refinement, but she is a natural.
Did she literally just come out and just skate all by herself? Just glided across the ice like she was a swan on a lake? It was stunning. And not only did she skate by herself, she skated with confidence, she skated with elegance, she skated with beautiful lines. And I
Yeah.
wasn't waiting for Mark to swoop in and save her and support her out. I was enjoying what she was doing. It was absolutely stunning.
The posture, the skating skills, the character, the arms. If I'm gonna nitpick, if I'm just going to tiny little thing, she just needs to unlock her ankle more. And what I
Okay,
mean
Madam Marble.
and what I mean by that is if you can bend your knees just a tiny bit more, Michaela, your skate will give in to you and you will be in control. What, you don't agree with me on that?
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because as we know, I am not the bendiest of knees when I
You
skate
were
my
stiff as a board.
right. So when I skate, I don't necessarily. I find knee bend a little bit overrated, as we all know. So I find when I watch her
Because
on,
you're
it's kind of
short.
it's like watching myself because I'm short. I'm like, oh, I'll just stand up a little bit high. She's also short, and when I watch her, sometimes honestly, it's like watching myself. I'm like, oh, she's quite high in her knees. I actually said this to Mark, but she's quite high in her knees, and I can relate to that. Knee bend's overrated. In her case, not in most people's case, but in her case.
Brilliant. Judges across the board were 8 and 8.5. She scored a 32.5, highest that we've seen so far in the series. A massive score for the third week. Jane just absolutely loved it. A complete performance. She did touch upon the fact that she had those tiny wobbles. And for me, those tiny wobbles, I don't think it was so much nervous energy. I thought it was just she wasn't quite in control because she came up out of her knees a little bit. She skated a quarter of an inch above the ice. And if you can skate a quarter of an inch below the ice, you're more stable.
I mean, I've never managed to master that technique, so as you were, Michaela. I have to say though, I mean, she's landing her lifts on one foot, her rotating lift, she's landing on one foot. She's very confident and she's very aware of her feet being right underneath her. There's no, I don't feel ever that her legs are getting away from her like I did with Dan. So I think that she's very aware of the ice. She's very at one with the ice. I feel like she's very, I think she's really comfortable, which I really
Mm-hmm.
like to see. And I think last week we saw her get a little bit ahead of herself and get a little bit caught up in the performance, and we both thought she might trip herself up. But this week, I didn't feel that. I did feel she may have been a bit nervous, but I have to say, and I think she said herself she was a bit disappointed in her nerves catching up with her. But I
Yeah.
have to say, every single performance tonight had a little stumble or a little bit of a nervy moment, and I don't know why. There was some kind of juju in the air.
Well, it's the first week where they've only had a couple of days to rehearse and train. So I think that is the true dancing on ice. And now we will see moving forward, the strong will survive, or who will be the strong to survive, because this is the machine that dancing on ice is. You literally have a couple of days to learn the routine, train the routine, and perform the routine. So,
Well,
but
and don't forget, she was also working very hard this week, and I think they were getting up at like 5 a.m. to get on the ice, and it's probably been a very, very tight turnaround for her. And I think when you're comfortable with that, with skating, you feel like, oh, that'll be fine. But even you and I know, like, if you don't feel over prepared for a skating show, no matter how professional you are, it always kind of catches you out a little bit.
yeah,
Chris said it was an Oscar-winning
Oscar winning.
performance and a great
Yes.
relationship. Okay, here, Chris.
I mean, Mark knows how to work those relationships with all of his partners. He's a fantastic professional. He's a fantastic choreographer, as we saw tonight. And he just knows how much to give his celebs to make them feel at their best. And I completely agree with Chris. This was an Oscar winning performance.
I agree. He doesn't push them too far that they're uncomfortable, but he pushes them far enough that they improve every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bravo.
Bravo. All right. Chris and Vanessa Bauer, Barbie. I'm
Yes.
just Ken. I mean,
You could be just Ken. You're very Ken.
I could be Elder Ken.
Well, Ken wasn't that young in the movie. What, he's like in his 40s anyway, right? You're not that far
True,
off.
true.
So, and you have the six pack for it, so I'm all over that. Next week you're coming as just Ken. I might do Barbie next week, but anyway, I I liked them this week. I thought it was a different person. I was surprised because last week I was a bit annoyed with him. I was like, he threw it away a little bit. I felt like he had so much potential, and then he kind of got into his head and kind of went off on a tangent. And I was a little bit annoyed with the guy. I'm not going to lie to you. But this week I was like, whoa, okay, now I see the potential that everybody's talking about because this week he felt much more self assured. There were a couple moments where I saw him check out. I don't know if he's young or if he's just not really got great attention span. There were a couple of moments where I saw him check out, but then he came right back in the room. Whereas last week I felt like he checked out from the minute he stepped on the ice and it was a battle the whole time for Vanessa to rein him in. This week I thought he was much more disciplined actually.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think what we are seeing is he caught the dancing on ice bug. The lead up to the first episode is all sort of, it's not smoke and mirrors, but it's a bit of that honeymoon period. And you don't, there's really no pressure. And like we just said with Fern, is that you get to week 3, week 4 of the television series, and you'll see who is going to be strong and who is going to survive. And I think he really embraced the process of what happens over the course of those 5-6 days in between each week. You're right. He stepped out there, and I was like, oh, I didn't see him as like this scrawny man. And he's not scrawny, but he's tall and he's lanky. And that is really hard to hide when you're on the ice. And I appreciated the fact that it looked like he really worked on his lines, that he worked on his stability, and his
Excuse
character.
me. Excuse me. Can I just say one huge thing?
Yeah,
Hydroglide.
exactly. That is massive. I
When was
think
the last time you did a hydroglide? I mean, they are not easy, people. You can either do one or you can't. They are hard.
I think the last hydroglide I did was about 73 years
1975.
ago. It is a very, very difficult move. It looks great, but it's really hard.
And he is a tall guy. Chris is a tall guy, so that's a lot of counterbalance between his leg at the one side and his arms at the other side. It was really impressive. I was like, props to you for trying this on what is his week 2, his second performance. Incredible.
Now, something you may not have realized at home or saw at home, but that last little spinning lift that they did, which is an airplane spin, if you noticed or if you go back and watch it, you can see that his upper body is a bit hunched over and he's kind of looking down and really using his lower back and potentially his glutes to hold Vanessa up in the air. That is a very dangerous position for the boy to be in. And I
Terrifying.
and I think they may have had some problems with that throughout the week. And the only reason why I say that, because if we move on to the judges' comments, Ashley said that he was really surprised by what he pulled out on the night due to the fact of that was the best that they had done it. And then when you look at Chris's performance of that actual airplane spin in the live show, he screamed at the end. He was like, yes! Granted, yeah, I know it was the last element of that routine, but I have a feeling they struggled with that a little bit. So
Well, looking at that technique, they're definitely going to struggle with that. Vanessa definitely needs to work on that with him and teach him where his center of gravity and his center of balance needs to be because that is an accident waiting to happen. And because he's tall, it's even more exaggerated. And if you don't know where the boy's center of gravity and center of balance is on that, then you better find out pretty quick.
we see a lot the first couple of times these celebs do these rotational lifts is they sort of fall into the girl, they fall into the weight, the center weight.
But that to me is that he hasn't been told enough because I think that's something that you can fix that and you
Yes,
feel it when it's right. He just needs to be told. So I'm not sure if Vanessa's not doesn't isn't aware that that's happening while she's spinning. I mean, she must be, well, she should be, but I'm not sure where the miscommunication's coming from there because it's an easy fix. But you as the pro need to know that technique.
yeah, no, for sure. Judges across the board had 7.5. That gave him a total of 30. Chris felt that he turned it up tonight, that he really sees the potential. And however, he did feel that it wasn't quite polished. And I agree. I agree with that. I think, Chris isn't a dancer. He doesn't come from a performance background. And so that is going to be sort of his nemesis throughout the next couple of weeks is really, Vanessa needs to really work with him on refining those movements, and when you do a move that it finishes all the way through, that you concentrate on what your hands and what your fingers look like because you are up against people like Michaela.
Yeah, I mean, I think he got for me he got most improved tonight just because I was so pleased to see that he didn't have a flashback to last week, but he definitely something he's going to always have to work on. I don't think he can ever afford to lose concentration there.
Yeah, and I think as Ashley had said that we could sort of see him overthinking sometimes within that performance. And again, that's another thing of you got to put that face on, that skate face, and you kind of have to leave it there. You can still think about things as you should. You should be very conscious and very aware of what's happening when you're going through this, but don't show us that you are conscious and aware of thinking about the steps and the elements and what's coming next. There was one moment actually when they were skating backwards and they were going clockwise towards the judges or around the judges bench, and as they went to step forwards, you could see Chris look at Vanessa, and there was what looked like a moment of panic of, oh my God, did I forget the steps? Granted, he didn't, but it was those little things that the judges really will pick up on because you're breaking character at that point. All right, now one of my favorite performances tonight, Sam and Molly,
Yes,
the Jungle Book. Okay, credit due, right? That costume he had on,
it's a skin. It's a full skin almost.
it is not easy to skate in. It's
No,
heavy, it's hot, and it probably isn't very flexible.
and I bet it's very itchy too.
They should have choreographed it so in case he had an itch, he could have like just worked that into the choreography.
Scratchy bit. I mean, I was looking at him and I was like, poof, he's gonna cough up a fur ball any minute. But he looked cool. Like when that music started and he just started bobbing along to it, I was right there with him. I love this performance from start to end. And when somebody gives you a costume like that, and when someone gives you a full face character with a full bodysuit, you better embrace it, or because otherwise it can fall so flat. And he took that for me, took it to the next level.
He
His
really did.
skating was amazing as well.
Now, I have to say, I don't know if I was watching the same thing that maybe you were and or what the judges were watching, but everybody sort of like praised him on the timing of everything because there was a lot of content in there. But I felt from what I saw, it wasn't not a lot of it was on time. There were a couple of moments when they were out of time, and I wasn't really going to say anything, but until the judges then said, "Oh, the timing was perfect," and I went, "Wait, but some of the toasts, I knocked my mic over. some of
Ooh, Poltergeist, the movie.
some of the toe work that they were doing, that footwork, to me felt like it was out of time. So I just got a little bit confused. Granted, I loved it. I loved everything about it. But the fact that they were like, "Oh, it was perfect timing," I was like, I not for me. It wasn't.
So I didn't really feel that at all. So I wonder if because you're 8 hours behind us, you were just having a little bit of a problem with the feed. But honestly, I didn't notice that. I actually thought it was very timely. So
Maybe I
that's
was watching something
interesting.
else. Maybe I was
No,
watching
no,
something
no,
else.
no, maybe not, because you actually have a really good eye for detail. So perhaps we just missed it. Because I was just caught up in the performance, and actually, if you asked me to tell you what they did, I actually can't remember. I mean, luckily I wrote it down. The three jumps and the spins and everything, because I actually got lost in it. I just felt he was so committed to that, and actually with Sam, I can see skating in his body. It's
Yeah,
almost effortless. It's
it
in
is.
his body. His center of gravity is low. He's always in the right place. He's always on the right part of the blade. He had a little stumble, which, again, everybody did. I just feel like he's a skater. He's a born skater. He should have been a skater.
Yeah, no, for sure. His center of gravity is perfect in the perfect spot. The three jumps that he did, or jump that he did, and then he also did the pull butterflies, which is a difficult move because there's two things that happening. Number one, you have to execute the butterfly where your feet fly up, out, back behind you, but
Almost
then
like
as
a cartwheel.
yeah, like a flattened cartwheel. But then at the same time, too, when the girl goes to do it, you have to have the correct foot position to be able to rotate that so that the girl is able to also do the butterfly as well. So I thought
And
again,
also, that's a full-grown woman. She can pull you off your feet if you're not anchored and ready for her to jump.
yeah,
Because
a hundred
I've
percent.
done that many times. Sorry.
What, pulled David off his feet?
Everybody. Whoosh, be gone.
So judges scored him. Ashley gave him an 8.5, and Odie, Jane, and Chris gave him total or eights, a total of 32.5. Yeah, I think the steps are there. The performance is there. I think we're going to see some really, really good things from him. Now, Molly is new this year. And I know she's a fantastic professional. So I'm really excited to see what Molly's going to bring to this partnership. Because with, pros that have been there for quite a few years, we kind of know what to expect. And with Molly, we don't. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
What I will say to Molly, if she is listening, is we've seen quite a few pull throughs now, so you need to definitely bring something fresh in terms of tricks to the table next week because we've seen him do a lot of pull throughs, and he's good. He's stable on his feet and he's nailed that, but he could do more than that. And I feel that we
Hmm.
see a lot of pull throughs in general throughout all of the routines. Everybody's doing the pull through, and it's time to move on, guys, because I don't want Sam to plateau. I want him to be pushed a little bit harder each week. Of course, you have to stay safe, but we need to stop pushing him now with the final in mind.
No, you're absolutely right. And I had forgotten about that. All right. So let's move on to the godfather of Dancing on Ice. Couple number 6 was Sir Steve and Vicky.
He was
Um,
more like the oh my god father.
oh my God. Can you please show us some skating, father?
I would have been happy if he just stayed behind the desk, honestly. Like he was giving me all the Godfather vibes, and then he got up, and I was like, oh, it's not so intimidating now.
You know, I have to say, he's trying.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And given the fact that he's up against such incredible skaters already in this competition, he's got a really hard task at hand.
He improved so much since last week. I mean, last week he was skating on 2 feet. He couldn't even transition. He was pushing with one leg. He couldn't actually transition onto the other leg. He's doing that now, but there's not a lot of movement, and he's not really, I don't think at this point, ever going to be able to catch that pack.
No, I don't think technically he's going to be able to catch the pack, but I think you could continue the smoke and mirrors with him, and which Vicky is doing at the minute. And I think keep bringing bigger production numbers around him or bigger creatives to.
Surely not bigger props because that table was huge. He fell off it and he went underneath it. And I mean, he's a giant.
No, I was actually going to say bring the whole house. Like let's just not give him a table.
Oh,
Bring
go away before somebody drops a house on you too.
exactly. Well, and we can just look at proof is in the pudding because public love him because he was bottom of the leaderboard and he got through.
The music was powerful and dramatic. The performance, his face was powerful and dramatic, but it was slow and wobbly in the movement. So I mean, there's not really much we can say. It was.
We can support him.
You can be supportive of his trying. Oh my goodness, yeah, and I mean, it's Sir Steve Redgrave's. I mean, there's nothing I can say about that. And I think they're doing great with what they've got, but obviously, it's going to be a shorter run rather than a longer one. I don't think we're going to see him perform in the Bolero this year. You
Oh,
heard it here.
wow.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Exclusive. Brutal.
Yeah, but I like what he's doing, and it's entertaining. Yeah, I'm struggling.
Okay, well, let's move on
I'm
then, shall we?
sorry, Steve. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Antoinette, skating seventh, Deadpool, and Wolverine, Anton and Annette, obviously.
He was a dead ringer for Wolverine, though. Come on, people.
Yeah, he really was. But again, credit where credit is due. Skating in Lycra, a full Lycra bodysuit, is unforgiving.
I agree.
You can't hide nothing.
What do you think he was trying to hide in there? Like a stunt double?
I think it just is so much more exposing. It's like when men or women wear shorts on the ice, and we know that he has had not an issue with, but he needs to work on his posture.
Oh, yes. It was very evident in that yellow banana costume. Maybe that's what he was hiding in there.
Oh my!
A yellow banana in his costume.
Wow, his solo work is really good, but he has a tendency when he goes solo to look down. And with
Yes.
all of the celebs that I've ever worked with, and with when I don't teach a lot of ice skating outside of this, but when I do work with people and people who tend to look down, I always tell them I can guarantee you one thing in life, that when we're out here skating, your feet are not going to fall off, so you do not need to look at them. And I know people like to concentrate kind of looking down, it helps them focus a little bit, but one thing that you really have to work on, that Annette should be working with him on, is concentrating out to the top of the live audience. Take your gaze so everything automatically happens with that chin up. Unless obviously it's choreographed that you have to, move the head or do a head roll or something or other. But that concentration gaze needs to stay at eye level.
Now, I have to say with him, and actually, this is a good point that you're making because as soon as you look down, the head falls forwards. And when the head falls forwards, the spine tends to follow. When the spine curves, that's where you get your bad posture, but also that puts you in danger of falling forwards.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, you're right. Annette needs to work on that. And also because her posture is so great, by comparison, it's even more obvious. Now, yeah, I don't think the Lycra did him any favors, but did you see that roll up?
Yeah, it was great. So stable.
It was beautiful and so smooth. And last week, I don't know, I didn't point this out and I meant to because I wrote it down. But last week, when Vanessa, James Amorose, and Dan Edgar did the roll up, he fumbled the arms. He got the wrong arm before he went for the roll up. And she managed to flip the arms and then get the roll up done because she knows what she's doing, obviously.
Mm.
But this week with Annette, with Antoinette, Anton was right there ready for the roll up. And as he rolled her onto his arms. And don't forget, she's a full grown woman that's kicking her body in front of him. So there's a lot of counterbalance that goes forwards. And then she throws herself back over to his back, as she's supposed to. That's a lot of weight for you to counterbalance on the skate. You get pulled forward, you get pulled backwards. He was solid as a rock. And when he put her down, it was like butter.
Frankie, are you feeling okay?
Sorry, I'm going to go back to my evil self. It's terrible. It's all terrible. Blah, blah, blah.
I was gonna say just because you're looking a little green.
Sick to my stomach.
No, I agree with you. He's very, very, very solid. Very solid. I just want to, and I do agree with pretty much everything that the judges had said, is that he's got great speed. Now, thank you, Miss Odie, watching and recognizing the fact that he is skating in both directions.
Yes.
Because that is something we don't hear a lot about. That is something we don't see a lot. Because basically, for you guys at home, everybody has a natural direction, a turning direction, either obviously clockwise or anti-clockwise. And you tend to do crossovers in one direction, whichever is more comfortable and more confident. But thank you, Annette, for putting in choreography that went both directions, because now you are showing versatility and it just shows an added level, sort of elevates the skating because we're getting crossovers both sides of the circle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's quietly confident. I think he's stealthily improving. I hope he doesn't plateau. You're right that the way that she's working him is helping to improve his strength, but perhaps when he gets more confident, he'll be able to show that to us. And I think people at home perhaps wouldn't appreciate it as much as you and I do. But he is quietly confident. It wasn't, I guess, the wolf attack that we were hoping for, but it was certainly a Wolverine performance. I liked it.
I loved it. They had a total score, 7.5s across the board, which put them a total of 30, which on that leaderboard, there was 3 people tied for 30. Dang. Now, Charlie and Eric, one of my favorite movies, Ghost. But can we discuss the VT with them at the pottery wheel? Oh, gosh.
I hated every minute of that. I was cringing down to my toes. I was cringing in places I didn't even know I had. It was just, I was curled. Ew, no. Stop.
What was curled?
Everything. Particularly my toes.
Oh, dear God. And then the opening shot where they were in the tunnel and that pottery wheel, it made me giggle. And I shouldn't be laughing when coming into a performance like this because it is very heartfelt and a very beautiful piece of music and can be very powerful. But that pottery wheel was spinning at like point no miles per hour. Like,
It was like somebody was underneath it trying to turn it, cranking it.
total, which couldn't possibly have been the case. But either do it or don't do it. Like just put a beautiful pot there, right?
I
But
agree.
oh,
Oh my God. I thought Patrick Swayze had been superimposed onto Eric's face. First of all, love Patrick Swayze, huge fan. So when I saw him reincarnated, Eric looked the spitting image of me. I couldn't stop staring. It actually took away from the performance for me because I just kept staring, thinking, is it or isn't it? The
yeah.
hair completely transformed him into one of, Hollywood's most iconic actors. And he actually really looked like him.
He really did. And I thought Charlie really looked like Demi Moore as well. However, little random fact, did you know that Patrick Swayze was an ice skater?
Oh, I knew he was a dancer.
Yeah. So before Dirty Dancing, he actually he was taking lessons. He didn't compete or anything like that or do anything professionally, but he was, from what I heard or what I have heard through the industry, is that he's a pretty competent ice skater.
Wow.
But if we actually dig into this performance here, I just felt like, and I probably, well, I know I'm sort of echoing the judges too. A lot of it was assisted. There was quite a few wobbles. I felt like maybe they hadn't trained the last lift as much, because she looked really dizzy coming out of it. Now, I know it takes the celebs a long time to get used to that rotational spinning, to get their heads around what it feels like to be dizzy and then be able to stand up straight afterwards. But I have to say, the waltz three turns that they did towards the beginning. Now, this is a secret. This is a little bit of a tidbit of some of the secret to my success with the show was you can still execute waltz three turns with the woman's weight still on you, because we all were saying is that everything looked very assisted. Her
She
hand,
almost glides off the ice.
yes, her hand was kind of falling around the back of Eric's shoulder. And if you look at ballroom, or if you look at traditional waltz hold, the girl's hand needs to press up against the front of the shoulder, right? Then you push against each other and create that frame. And you can still hold somebody up with that frame, but it doesn't give the look of over the shoulder and hanging on to somebody. So I think moving forward, Eric, I know like you're going to work on her basics and doing things like that and making her more stable. But think about the hand positions, because you can hide a lot of that sometimes.
And also, a hand position and an arm position can give extra stability to the woman, as you were just explaining. Then it can really help her feel confident too if she's got something to push against. But the problem I have with Charlie is she's not connected to her legs at all. So I feel like from the mid thigh down, there's no connection. You can see it in the lifts. There's no stretch. There's no strength. And I believe she's dance trained, so she knows how to do this. And what she needs to do in order to feel the connection to her skates and to start to feel a relationship to her feet and her skates is she needs to start doing lots and lots of leg raises in her skates off the ice. So
Right.
she needs to stand by the barrier, holding onto the barrier, or she can even do it on the ice, holding onto the barrier, and start just doing those leg raises and those leg swings and like finding that control. Because at the moment, the minute she takes her foot off the ice, it just kind of hangs. And then when he goes to put her down, she doesn't know where that foot's got to be, and it's not stable when she lands on it. And what she needs to do is find that tension through her knees and through her ankles and through her toes even, so that she can feel the connection from her toes all the way into her body. And she's not getting that right now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, we can't deny the fact that she's a fantastic actress. The performance that they both bought was stunning.
It's actually very emotional. It was breathtaking. It was stunning. The story that she told was really emotive, and obviously and Eric as well. It was a beautiful piece between them, and it was really understated and gentle and very very loving actually. But yeah, she needs to work on her feet. So
Yeah, and
you win some, you lose some, right?
of course, Odie and Ashley gave her a 6.5, which is interesting, because then Jane and Chris gave her a 7, which is a total of 27. Because the
Which I would have
performance,
given the opposite. I would have
totally,
thought it was the opposite.
100%, totally. It kind of threw me a little bit. And again, I think the whole theme of this week's episode was believe in yourself. What does that mean, Frankie?
Well, you have the skills, you train them all week, but you have to train that belief during the week. Everything that you want to bring on Sunday night in your performance, you have to train it during the week. It's no point saying, yeah, I can do the three jump, and yes, I can do the three turn, and yes, I can do the backward skating, and then on the night, trying to then emote to it. You have to emote during the week. You have to put that feeling into it during the week, because then we will believe it on the night. But if you are not acting it, if you are not performing it during the week in your rehearsals, then when it comes to Sunday night, if you try to turn it on then you don't believe it, and neither do we. And that's when the judges are saying you need to believe in yourself, because you haven't trained it, you haven't practiced it, so we don't believe it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the words of the good and the great Glinda, the Ariana Grande, it's good to be popular. So I think you need to just work on your popularity.
Wow.
I felt like it was time for a musical break.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was time for that beautiful voice of yours to come out.
I'm going to do a close-up so you can see my makeup. Look how shiny and sparkly I am.
It looks fantastic. It looks fantastic. If you're just listening to us and not watching us on the podcast, she's full green. She's got beautiful glitter. She's contoured, like proper snatched.
I'm sorry, what?
You heard me. She's painted.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
green today. Green with envy. I think actually I felt like I fitted right in with Stephen Mulhern, obviously who was dressed also as Alphabet, although I would hasten to say I was a bit confused by his look. Galinda the Good, who was of course Holly Willoughby, and then of course there was the Dancing on Ice professionals who did a whole Wicked theme. So I felt very much at home in the Emerald City tonight.
You are in your abode for sure. Okay, and then last but not least, Molly and Colin, Beauty and the Beast, A plus for costume design.
You know, we forget as well because I think we made such a big deal last year, rightly so, about Adele and the stoma bag, and I think nobody really mentions or makes a big deal about the fact that Molly is skating with a stoma bag. She literally has a hole in her stomach, and when we spoke to Adele last year about that, you know, having a hole in your tummy when they've cut into your muscles, that really affects your center of gravity and your balance. And Adele said that it was very difficult for her to relearn her balance. So not only is Molly doing an incredible job of being not a skater, not a dancer, and learning to skate and learning to perform, but now she's also skating with a stoma bag, and she has a disability on her left hand as well. So I don't think we're giving her as much credit as we should. This woman is amazing.
Mm.
She's absolutely an inspiration. She's incredible.
Well, I'm giving her all the credit because I agree with you 100%. I'm a massive fan of hers. I was a fan of hers from the Traders, and now watching her Dancing on Ice journey only 3 weeks in, I think it's absolutely fantastic. But again, I think undeniably her skating is great. She just needs some refinement, and it's mostly with her feet. You know, again, when you're up against the likes of Michaela, uh, who has fantastic point within her foot and or her toes, however you look at it, the skate. Molly just really needs to concentrate on when she pushes forward, that the leg that goes back behind her that lifts up into the air, that push follows all the way through the foot and not just doesn't just stop as that foot comes up off the ice.
Starts to look a little bit like a golf club. She's not quite getting that articulation in the ankle all the way to the end. But I do think she does have a lot more connection to her legs than, for example, Charlie that we just spoke about earlier. I do feel that she's a lot stronger through those pushes.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that the waltz turns were great. You know, the technical stuff that she's doing, she's able to execute the footwork with the mohawks, the three turns, you know, in and out of the lifts. I feel the base is there. It just now needs to be refined.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, she looks stunning, and I really liked this choice for them, the Beauty and the Beast concept. I thought it was really nice because she's young and it's very playful, and she has that whole belle of the ball look. I mean, she was just resplendent. I found the whole routine actually really, really engaging and really, it was a joy to watch. It was a great way to end the show.
Yeah, for sure. 7.5s across the board from all four judges. Chris felt that it was serene. He wants more seamless choreography. Now, let's discuss this because I agree with him. And that is something that I feel makes a great choreographer from just a choreographer, is being able to, rather than stop and start, or hey, this is this section, this is the second section, this is the third section, think of that piece of music with movement as one section. And it's finding those transitional moments in and out of lifts. And, you know, maybe if there's not that they had a dance break, but, you know, with some of the other couples, there were dance breaks. Like they do a stop, you know, and then they do two counts of eight on the spot and then they pick up and go again. I think that is, and it's not easy. It's not easy finding those or making those transitions fluid or smooth.
But I think this piece of music does lend itself really well to a transition, though. Like you said, it's a real continuous piece of music. There's no transitions within that music that you feel like it's a stop or a start. So it would have been nice to see that carried on through the choreography. I agree with you. However, did you notice how well she steps from forwards to backwards?
Yeah, it's
Even now,
beautiful. Yeah.
stunning. Yeah. But oh my goodness, I love the whole piece.
In comparison to, if you go back and watch Sam and Molly, Sam's routine was seamless from the start to finish.
He never broke character, and the choreography never broke either.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're kind of wondering what we're talking about, maybe go back and watch Molly and Collins, and then go back and watch Sam and Molly's. That's a bit confusing. There's a lot of similar names this year, isn't there?
I agree. Yeah, and we have to be like there's a couple of Vanessas, and yeah, it is quite confusing. A couple of Mollys. Yeah, we need to keep an eye on that and make sure that everybody at home knows who we're referring to.
So that was the last performance. Who won the Oscar for you?
Tonight I really enjoyed Sam's performance. Sam and Molly, the Jungle Book performance. I just think he's such a great little skater. He's like a little firecracker. I really enjoyed it. I didn't feel the need to critique it too much. Yes, he stumbled. I don't mind if you stumble as long as you recover and don't let it get to you. I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed Charlie's performance, not because I thought it was a particularly great skate, but I just loved the choreography. I thought it was.
My Oscar-winning performance this week would have to be Michaela and Mark. From the moment she took that first push, I sold. Well, the leaderboard, if we take a look at that tonight. Michaela and Sam were joint first with 32.5. Dan was second with 31. Chris, Anton, and Molly were joint, what would that be? Joint sixth, I think, at that point?
I mean, I'm dyscalculic. I'm not listening anymore.
So they were joint something with 30 points. Fern had 28, Charlie with 27, and Sir Steve had a total score of 20. And then we went to the skate off. Well, no, not even the skate off, just the goodbye off.
I mean, why did they do it again? They know how much we all hated it last week when there wasn't a skate off. I mean, even Stephen said that when that didn't go down very well on social media. Well, no, because it's rubbish. So please stop. They're going to bring the skate off back, apparently. I read it on socials. Like, how do these people on socials know? I don't even know, but they're bringing the skate off back apparently in week 5. So we will see a skate off. I mean, I don't know why. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I just miss it. I think that for me, I miss it. It just feels weird to just vote somebody off.
Yeah, I know. And also, like, she has a huge following, so were her fans not voting? Like, how did that work?
Well, we've discussed this in the past, and I know we need to wrap this episode up, but a lot of people watch the show on ketchup.
Ketchup? With mayonnaise?
And mustard. And maybe a yellow banana. But do you know what I mean? So it's like the especially the Towie audience, Fern's audience might not watch the show live, and you only have those 5 or 6 minutes to do your votes.
But how did you find that because you skated with Gemma Collins and she was Towie all the way, and she's also got a big, huge social media following. You'd think it'd kind of a similar situation. Obviously, you know, Fern and Gemma have very different personalities and different, probably very different followings,
Frankie.
but still.
Frankie, let's not compare Gemma Collins to Fern McCann. I think we were skating for different reasons.
Okay. But you stayed in the competition for longer though, right?
I know we did.
Oh no.
Gemma brought a different element than Fern brought. Gemma, you know, like, she was pure entertainment. The creatives were massive. Do you know what I mean? And that's what people wanted to watch. And I think that's why. And I think too, Gemma's performances were unpredictable. So maybe that makes people watch more live because, you know, if you think somebody's going to fall, you're going to want to be the first to see it, right? Rather than hear about it and then go watch it. So I don't know.
Sorry to see you go, Fern. We've enjoyed your performance. You're a very glamorous, beautiful lady, and we will miss you on the ice.
Absolutely. And I must say to Brendan, congratulations. I believe this is his last performance on Dancing on Ice. I know that earlier in the year he called his retirement. So congratulations, Brendan. Fantastic career with the show. You will definitely be missed, and good luck with the future, whatever that might be. I mean, I know we're going to see him in pro numbers and stuff like that, but as far as his journey with celebrities. Well, we've got some fantastic girls that are still left in the competition, so hopefully they will stay at that, you know, top of the leaderboard there so that we can get some girls to the final this year.
Yeah. Charlie, Michaela, and Molly, we are counting on you guys.
100%. Now, next week, it looks like we're going to see some personal skates, which always gets very emotional. I'm assuming that's what they're doing from what they sort of teased, which will be... It's always a really nice episode because you get to hear a lot about families and a lot about situations and, you know, histories and different things like that. So probably bring your box of Kleenex next week because...
So what are you going to wear next week for the personal story theme?
Ooh, I'm going to wrap myself in a tortilla.
To honor your Mexican heritage?
No, because Mexican food is such a part of my life.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're going down the food route. Okay. Well, if we're last year you were going to come dressed as a chocolate pudding. So if we're going down the food route again, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'll come as fish and chips. I suppose. I don't know.
Ew. That's a bit smelly.
Oh, thanks. Well, then in that case, I'm going to have to come as a cat, which you would probably think is smelly again. But at least you're so far away from me, you won't be allergic. But it's been lovely chatting to you.
Yes, it has, Frankie Steven. Hey, and we also have to remind you on Wednesdays, make sure you join Frankie and Alexandra for the Icebreakers Lookbook. It is our bonus episode. You can stream it live on Wednesdays with the girls, or you can obviously listen to it wherever you listen to your podcast as well. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss an episode. And please, we love the comments, both on Instagram, on TikTok, but also on the podcast platforms. And we do try and get back to you as soon as possible when you guys leave us questions or comments. Frankie, it's been a real pleasure.
One of my favorite weeks, movie week, so it was really nice to share it with you.
All right, you guys, thank you so much. We love you all. Thanks for listening. Frankie, I will see you same place, same time next week. And adios. Wait, we gotta throw a bucket of water on you.
I'm melting. I'm still here.